What is up, guys? Ricky Savage Gaming here today, coming to bring you a little end of season exotic review. Today we're going to be talking about the Queensbreaker, and we will be talking about the Arbalest and which one would be best for you. So I'm not going to lie, I hadn't opened the Queensbreaker up in a while, decided to go ahead and use some of the things I wasn't using to upgrade it, and give it a spin on a little strike. Now, I'm not going to lie, this thing has never been truthfully top tier aside from when it first came out in Forsaken. This thing currently has received a couple of nerfs from Bungie, and it is not exactly what I would call S tier. This thing will 2-tap most majors. This thing is rather slow when it comes to the DPS side of things. I can't say I was particularly impressed, but I'm trying to make a comparison almost to Anarchy and Lament, which is what I normally run, and you can't do that with this thing, guys. This thing is useful from a distance in places that perhaps other heavies are not, but even when it comes to things like Truth or Eyes, I wouldn't say this is exactly a top tier exotic. It is useful when it comes to, like I said, distance. Say you got a Shrieker off in the distance you got to take out. I mean, in that case, yeah, sure, I mean, I see it, but I mean, the damage is actually not horrible. I was actually thoroughly enjoying the weapon up until I was coming across these majors, these mini bosses, etc. And when I realized that I had a heavy weapon that was taking 2 to 3 shots to kill on an 1180 Nightfall, I can't say I was extremely impressed with the gun's performance. I will say, however, that it is a fun gun to use when you're just messing around, maybe clearing some lost sectors in the EDZ, Cosmodrome, etc. I mean, it's truthfully not horrible. It's by no means, in my opinion, one of the worst weapons in the game. You'll often get that stigma with this weapon, especially when you're playing with your buddies. You say, I got Queensbreaker. I mean, it's not by any stretch the best, but I wouldn't consider it the worst. As you'll see when we start hitting this boss, it does about 66,000 and some change every time you get a critical on him, and it's not bad. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about my little buddy, the Arbalest. The Arbalest is a green ammo weapon, requires special ammo. Keep that in mind as we go ahead and go forward with this explanation. We're back in the same scenario. You open up your first exotic engram. You and your buddies are too new to quite understand what you just got. So you go ahead and you go to YouTube, you type in your Ricky Savage 355, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you how good this thing is. In comparison to the Queensbreaker, guys, this thing wins for me 10 times out of 10. And you might say, well, why is that? It doesn't seem to be that special. It might actually be just like the Queensbreaker from how it appears. However, this thing is doing the same thing the Queensbreaker is, however, it is making much more ammo drops. You are going to get much quicker charge times and about the same damage output. You are also substantially more mobile with this weapon. Now let's go ahead and talk about that exotic perk. This gun breaks down elemental shields like it is a hot knife through paper mache. This thing is extremely fun. It is very much so quicker than the Queensbreaker when it comes to charge time. Guys, if you go ahead and get this thing, man, don't even worry about the Queensbreaker, in my honest opinion. This thing is a beast, especially when it comes to that green ammo spec. A lot of people downplay the linear fusion rifle. I say no. I say this thing is an absolute monster when it really gets down to it. So now let's talk about the effective range of the Arbalest when it comes to PvE encounters. This thing is very similar in that aspect to the Queensbreaker, right? So that's another comparison that should be made. What I will say is, guys, this thing is a monster, especially when it comes to those Shriekers that like to melt you and your team. Honestly, this thing is a must-have, especially when it comes to those things. I'm not going to say that this gun is S tier by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to probably put this thing a little more closer to a B, in my opinion, whereas I'd put the Queensbreaker a little closer to like a C or a D. That mobility, the amount of ammo dropping, it makes a substantial difference in the effectiveness of this weapon. Nah, I know what you might be thinking. Ricky, what about that boss DPS? You haven't mentioned it to us. So I'm going to tell you guys, listen, this thing was dropping 54,000 and some change, which you might say the Queensbreaker was just dropping 66. Mind you, this is a green ammo weapon, a special ammo weapon. This thing was doing nearly the same amount of damage with the amount of ammo that comes in it comparatively. This thing was dropping green ammo all over the place, man. This thing was an absolute beast. So when it comes down to it, my personal opinion, I'm going to say Arbalest beats the Queensbreaker. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Any recommendations? Thanks for watching. Peace.